Alright, what's going on, guys? And today I want to talk about the XR150L and more specifically on who I think this bike is for. And then later in the video we'll go over all the mods and my final impressions of the bike. But first off, I'd like to categorize this bike as a low-power dual sport, and I also put it in the same category as the mini motos, since this is around the same CCs as those bikes. It's a little bit bigger. Of the mini motos, this is probably one of the most practical because of the on and off-road capabilities. I'd say this is a great bike for somebody who is new to riding and looking to do a little bit on and off-road. I think you can really enhance your skill set when you go off-road. The one time we've taken this bike off-road so far, this is kind of my first experience to two wheels off-road, and is completely different than I expected. It's a whole different world when you're taking things off-road, and the dirt bike can really enhance your skill set if you're looking to get better fast. And sticking on the topic of off-road, this is a dirt bike, so it does have a lot of advantages in the case of a crash. There is a lot of cheap components on the bike that are cheap to fix. And also, guys that are 250 plus pounds, this is not as cramped. This is more laid back seating position, more upright seating position. But it's not like a Grom or any of the other mini motos where you could spend more money in the bike than the bike actually costs. This one, it'd be pretty hard to do that because there's not much out there. But let's go ahead and get into the aftermarket parts that we've installed on this bike. All right, and going into the mods on the XR150L. First, starting up front, we've got the Canyon Dancer tie-down rings. These are awesome for anybody who's looking to trailer the bike or put it in the back of their truck. This makes it a super easy tie-down place, and they're pretty cheap. So I definitely recommend those. I'll put a link in the description to most of the stuff that we've done. And then moving up top, we've got the aftermarket handlebars. We went with the Pro Taper Wyndham/RM mid bend. And I wouldn't recommend this bend. I would probably, if we were to do it again, I would have went with the Husqvarna bend. That's what we do on all the other bikes, and wish we would have done it on this one because it didn't give us enough control area. So in the video we talk about it, but it mentions that the control area on these bars isn't as big as it is on the Husqvarna bend. And then we have also the Pro Taper risers, and those fit really well on this bike. And the ram mount, phone mount. So it's a couple different pieces that you have to buy separately. But this is our go-to setup, and it's kind of nice because if you have more than one bike, these jaws, you can loosen the jaws and quickly take it off of this bike and put it on a different bike. And then moving down, we have the factory Honda skid plate. The install was super easy, and we liked the plastic. Some guys like metals. I like plastic for certain things because plastic slides, whereas metal will grab. So the skid plate being plastic is not always a bad thing. And then we've got these aftermarket foot pegs that we got off of Amazon, and these are way better than the factory foot pegs that have a big huge rubber cushion on them. You don't have any feel with those, so especially if you're doing any kind of off-road, I definitely recommend these, and I'll put that link in the description below. And then moving into the freebie mods, we swapped the jets on the carb. We went from a 105 to a 115, and we're at 550 feet above sea level, and it seems to run great because we also opened up the intake and the exhaust. A lot of guys seem to like the 110, jumping from a 105 to a 110, but the 115 seems to be the happiest for us. So under the seat there's the airbox, and I've got a whole video on the airbox mod for this bike, as well as opening up the exhaust, just taking out the baffling inside the exhaust, and removing the flame arrestor and the snorkel off of the intake. So this seemed to really open up the bike and give it a little bit extra power. And then the final mod for the bike is the sprocket. So switching from a 17-tooth sprocket to a 16-tooth, if you're doing mostly on-road but a little bit of off-road, I think that's the perfect amount. I think it really gears it down to give the bike a little bit more power down low. and that's huge on this bike since we're talking only 150 cc's. But for serious off-roading, I think the 15 tooth is a little bit better for heavier riders, but that would be more for just solely off-road. But for mostly on-road, I would do the 16 tooth for sure. That seemed to really help the bike. And then finally, we just figured I'd show this. This is just a little bag that we had hanging around, and we just cable tied it to the back bar here. So it'll stay, but it works pretty good and holds any little stuff like a drink or something that you want to bring with you. And then finally, we just removed the reflectors that stuck out from the sides here, and we did it in the front as well. But for the back here, we used these automotive trim clips and just plugged the holes where the bolt had gone through for the reflector that sat right here. And that's about it for the mods on our XR150L. It's a great all-around bike. It's perfect for somebody who's taller. You know, 6'6" plus is going to be a lot more comfortable on this bike than a lot of the other mini motos, and is very comparable in power to a Honda Grom. And finally, for my final impressions of the bike, I'd say it's a great all-around bike. It's perfect for somebody who's wanting to do a little bit of on-road and off-road on a budget. Checks a lot of boxes for most riders, and really for the money, you can't beat it if you're wanting to do on and off-road. It's a super fun bike. Personally, I still do like the Grom more, but I am doing mostly on-road. I'm not doing any off-roading besides a couple times that we're going to take this out. So besides that, I think it's a great all-around bike. It's perfect for a bigger rider, and it's definitely a bike you can't go wrong with. You're not going to lose a bunch of money on. So if you're looking to get into motorcycles or wanting something that you can just hop on and go, and if you're not hungry for power, I highly recommend this bike. But I appreciate you guys watching. Drop a comment below what you guys think of the XR150 and which mini moto would you prefer. But I appreciate you guys watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.